Hey, welcome everyone to the episode 6 of Coffee with Andrew. I'm so pumped that you can be here today. As I said in my last video, this whole month of February, in light of Valentine's Day, is talking about 4 non-negotiables to look for in a future spouse. And so if you are looking, if you are searching any of that, I hope this is extremely helpful to you and for you to maybe grab hold of these yourself. Within these 4 non-negotiables, of course, it's kind of broad, and so that gives you some freedom to find what's more specific for you. And also, if you are married or you're already dating any of these things, if you're dating right now, hey, look for these things, because dating is, I love what my pastor calls it, he calls it investigating. It's investigating to see if this is someone that you want to spend the rest of your life with. And so look at these 4 non-negotiables and see if they're there. And then if you're married, this is something that you can grab hold of and you can teach others, just like myself. And so I want to get into it. There's 4 non-negotiables that I've seen that I think are kind of universal. They're broad, and I'll go a little deeper into each of them, but I want to give you freedom to find what's more specific to you. But the 4 of them are, number 1, a faith that challenges, a direction that complements, a personality that clicks, and an attraction that draws. Everyone said amen the last one. But the first one I want to talk about this week, a faith that challenges you. I'm not, and this is huge. I think and if you're not a follower of Jesus or any of that, I still think there's some really awesome and sweet things for you to learn in this. But for me as a follower of Jesus, I want to encourage any of those who are also following Jesus to find someone that doesn't just say, "Oh yeah, I'm a follower of Jesus," but following Jesus means that it permeates your life. It's not just showing up on a Sunday morning or an event or something like that. It's like, it's obvious. It's obvious. I remember a brother would ask me, talk to me about someone maybe he's interested in, and I'm like, my first question is like, Tony, is it obvious she loves Jesus? Because if it's not, she might end up looking to you to be Jesus for her, and it's not going to happen. No one is as good and as loving and fulfilling as Jesus is, and so it's going to be a little hard to fill that bill. So it should be obvious that they love Jesus. And what do we mean by it being obvious? And well, what do their relationships on earth look like? Does Jesus come off of their tongue naturally, and not like a crass word, but in a way that like it's just easy to talk about him? Because they have conversations with him, they love him, they really care about Jesus and about others knowing him. And like I said, they care for people. The most loving thing we could ever do for God is by loving the people he made. That is the most spiritual, the most loving thing we could ever do. It's not all these other mystical things. It's simply just loving the people God has placed in our path. Because people are not in the way, they are on the way of what God has for us. And so they truly live it out. They truly live it out by loving the people around them. And also, what a disciple of Jesus means is actually the word disciple is learner. That's what it means. And so if you're looking for someone that has a faith that challenges you, they're going to be a lifelong learner. They're not just learning in this season and super pumped, and then sometimes they're just like showing up on maybe a Sunday morning and listening to the message, and they're just sitting on their phone on Facebook, who's on Facebook anymore? But and so they are always wanting to learn, always wanting to grow in their walk with God, in their love for people, in practical things. Seriously, they are learners. That's a really good tip for you if you're looking for someone that has a faith that challenges. And then the last 2 things here I think are going to be really helpful for you is that it is really important to me that my wife would be someone that challenges me in their relationship with God. So my wife, Marissa, she does. She spends time with Jesus every single day, and this is so huge. So in the sense, in just one aspect, there's a lot of aspects to that she's fulfilled by him, that she's not looking to me to be Jesus for her. Jesus is Jesus for her. And so she just looks to me to be her husband and to love her and care for her. But man, it is not enough for them just to go through the motions in her walk with God, but that she gets alone with him. And so that anytime that maybe there's a disagreement, anytime that I'm frustrated, anytime I'm like, man, this is frustrating with her, which doesn't happen a lot, but if it does, I know if it's important enough to God, he's going to communicate to her. And so I don't have to be someone who's trying to change my wife. That's God's job. He's the one who can really change a heart. He's really the one who can mold and a heart. And so I trust him to do what only he can do. And then I love her. And I think about all the strengths, not the weaknesses. God can work on the other things. He can work on the imperfections. I'm just looking for and I'm paying attention to the strengths that my wife has. Knowing that if those weaknesses, if those things that my wife has are important enough to God, he's going to communicate to her when she's alone with him. It's beautiful to know that my wife gets alone with him and hears his voice. And then lastly, knowing that your wife, or your, for girls, your husband, has a faith that challenges you, is that whenever you're in conflict in marriage, you can always come down to, this is huge, listen to this. This is huge, that if you're ever in conflict, you both can come to the bottom line of, we both want the same thing here. We're not seeing things clearly. We're not seeing things the same way. We're not thinking about it the same way. But the bottom line is we want God's will. So we want the same thing. So now let's try to figure out how we can get to that same thing. Let's figure out what God's will is. And so instead of, it's not the husband wanting his way and his will. It's not the wife wanting her way or her will. It's, okay, God, what's your way? What's your will? And you can come together in agreement on that. So it's a win-win. It's not just the wife winning and the husband losing. It's not just the husband winning and the wife losing. It's God winning, and therefore we win in a marriage where both of you have a faith that challenges. And so I just want to encourage you with that. There's a lot more to this than what I talk about, but I thought I'd just give you some bare bones for you to work with and for you to think about. And so have an incredible week, and next week we'll talk about a direction that complements.